The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible in part by Techtown Detroit, Detroit's entrepreneurship hub. Techtown Detroit is a business incubator and accelerator, helping tech startups and local businesses launch and grow. Techtown supports businesses with co-working, office, meeting, and event space. They also connect entrepreneurs to resources and learning and networking events in Detroit. Techtown Detroit, Detroit's entrepreneurship hub. Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome to the Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit. It is time for the week that was. And boy, what a week it has been. Every week has been oh so fun lately. And of course, we have regular panelists. Alan Lengel is back, of course, the co-founder of Deadline Detroit, editor here at Deadline. Thank you for being back. We missed you last week.
Well, good to be back. I had a little pink eye.
Well, I know. It's just like...
You don't want to contaminate the office.
Well, we appreciate that very much because I've been paranoid for the last few days. Every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, is there something wrong with me? Nancy Derringer back in the coveted wonderful chair. There you go. Thank you for being here. And, of course, attorney Steve Fishman, noted defense attorney Steve Fishman is here again. We are pleased to have you all here. Thank you.
It's always great.
I see that was the royal we. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
So there we go.
It's the way we finish the week around here.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to finish this show stronger than Michigan State finished last night. Sorry about that, Spartans. Anyway, wow. It's been a very, very interesting couple of days in Washington, watching the opening arguments. The Democrats present their case for impeachment. We now go to day 3 of this, and today they're going to be breaking down the obstruction charge that they brought against the president. This has been really interesting to watch. The Democrats have been very methodical. They have been very repetitive. Just going over, but they've got 24 hours to fill, so they're doing it.
Oh,
they're filling it constantly.
It's like cable TV, you know? I mean, you just keep running the same.
Well, it makes sense, though, because most people's attention span is about 10 minutes, and if you watch 10 minutes of this, you're going to get the same spiel 10 minutes later. It's like on an endless loop.
And
it's
they're
probably not a bad idea.
They're producing, like, great fodder for the fall's campaign commercials as well, you know? I mean, they'll be able to, and I think it was kind of genius, since they're not going to get their witnesses. We have the lawyer talk about this, to use the video clips.
Right.
I mean,
I think it's great because they also can't cross-examine those videos.
Yes.
I mean, if they're going to lose, they're going down with their flag flying. So,
well, you know, it's an interesting tactic, and like I said, this seems tailor-made for the television age. They know there's going to be wall-to-wall coverage of this somewhere. Everybody's going to catch just a few minutes. And Steve, I want to get your perspective on this. I mean, would you be laying out this case any differently than they're doing?
I don't think so. I thought that Schiff in particular did a really good job of laying out the case and almost doing it as a former assistant U.S. attorney. He did it as if there was a real jury instead of these Republican senators who are talking amongst themselves and they don't
drifting in and out of the chamber.
But I thought he did a good job. I don't think they should have included Gerald Nadler. Anybody that watched him conduct the Judiciary Committee hearings back in the House, he's too old. He's too set in his ways, and I think it was just a huge distraction for him to get into the name calling that woke the Chief Justice from his coma and made him participate in it. And I thought it was ridiculous. I mean, to go down to the area where there's Cipollone and the rest of that group of fools that he has representing him, it just doesn't make any sense. And I thought that was the only bad thing. I didn't see, obviously, everybody's presentation, but I thought that the actual presentations were really good. I just thought it was a waste of time to get involved in. That was in debating over the rules.
Yeah.
When all the name calling started.
Exactly. And again, as you did mention, it's the only thing I think we've heard from Justice Roberts other than opening the proceedings each day since this thing began. And he, of course, admonished both sides because, I mean, he had to, because Cipollone, when he was out there, flat out just lied on the first day. Both, the president's attorneys did about the House process and everything that went on, saying that Republicans weren't allowed in some of the initial, depositions and things. They, of course, were. They were allowed to ask questions as well.
They were there.
They were there. So, I mean, he couldn't just sit there and say, hey, Nadler, you're being a jerk, without calling out the fact that there were blatant lies on the other side.
And I love that they keep reminding everyone that the hearings were done in the basement.
Yeah.
The
skiff room.
Right, down in the secretive basement there where they have
Imagine
the hearings.
The bare light bulb hanging down over the card table.
I have to tell you, in Recorder's Court, there are 2 basement courtrooms. I've tried a lot of cases, and they were open to the public just like anything else. It just happened to be located in the basement.
It's not
right.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, and I posted on Facebook, I said, what's happening is the Republicans are screaming, please, no witnesses, and because they've convinced themselves intellectually that they have 2% doubt that Trump is guilty. So they want to hold on to that 2% of doubt.
Oh, I
that
see.
Doubt. They think that he's not guilty by about 2%. And so if the witnesses like John Bolton come and remove that 2%, they still have to vote to acquit, but they're also humiliated by that, and they're trying to hold on to that little bit of dignity by just not making a total farce out of the thing.
But they're at the same time making a total farce out of the thing. In this day and age, as we all know, the odds of something staying secret, of things not coming out, you're going to have a guy like Parnas. Bolton is writing a book, I'm sure. It's going to come out. You have this new book by the Washington Post people. And all these things come out anyway. And these guys, it's really kind of an odd way of thinking, but they're petrified of him. That's what it boils down to. And I was starting to tell you guys, in the Post in the Bulwark, there was a cartoon basically talking about that he threatened they'll put their head on a pike if anybody that doesn't toe the line with them. And that's when you look at these guys, some of them went to Harvard Law School, some were in the military. Have they been scared shitless their whole life of like their dad and everybody else? I mean, all this. Who is this guy? I mean, he's just a big bully. He's just a big fat slob, and they can sit there and worry about him. So you go to work for a living. You don't have to be a senator or a congressperson.
Very true.
You know?
I think somebody in the Rolling Stone article that I was sharing with you about Lindsey Graham.
Yeah,
it might have been Steve Schmidt who said Lindsey Graham is a guy who has to hang around lions. So he was hanging around the lion, being John McCain. So when John McCain passed away, he had to find another lion. So his lion is Trump, and he's got no. I mean, it's shameful.
And it's not. He's not even like. I remember hearing on like a Pod Save America that he used to hang around in Rahm Emanuel's office during the first Obama thing. They said you couldn't get him out of there. You know,
Well,
he wants to be with the cool kids.
You know who he reminds me of? I don't know if anybody remembers the old Bugs Bunny commercials where there's the big bulldog, the tough bulldog around the block, and there's the little yappy dog following around. What are we gonna do today, Butch? It's like that's who he is. You know, and just I don't
Grover
get where he's
Dill.
coming from.
He's Grover Dill. Yeah,
Toady, I think is the word
Toady,
we're looking
his
for.
little Toady, Grover Dill.
But it's just been ridiculous to watch, and the fact that you have people who are actively like sitting there going la 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 la. I don't want to hear any of this stuff.
Rand Paul is said to be doing a crossword puzzle.
Yeah,
Go
well,
ahead.
it's the Times crossword. I'll give him some credit for that one because I struggle with that one myself. But no, I mean, how can you sit there? I know there's no punishment if you don't follow this oath to take this seriously, right? It doesn't really mean anything. But shouldn't you at least attempt to look like you're trying to be fair about this? I mean,
You'd think.
you'd think.
Yeah.
I think again, if it weren't for the fact that they're afraid of his tweeting or his whatever it is he's going to do that's going to get his base all riled up, and they must be afraid of a primary challenge in these red state places because it's not like a Democrat's going to beat him in South Dakota or wherever the hell they are.
Well, one of the interesting things I have seen, though, is that the Democrats have been very, very careful also to point out the whole time that, hey, not only is the president being judged here, but so are you, fellow senators, for how seriously you take this and take your responsibility. Because, as you say, there is going to be more stuff that comes out.
It's going to come out.
Well,
We are
and
going
that's-
to learn that this is a little bit more deep than already we've been shown it is.
It's pretty deep.
I find that Judge Roberts, his admonishing and calling it the greatest body of deliberation in the world or something, I think that's just a joke.
Well, it's
It is a
supposed to be.
It's supposed to be, and it may have been at one time, but it certainly isn't now. I mean, the people in the Senate are not as big of clowns as some of the folks in the House, but there's certainly
There's plenty
some
of clowns.
there.
Well, Martha McSally too. Her move last week.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
that's
just like
just a classless move on.
well, it's like she's desperate. She's terrified that she doesn't who's she facing?
Kelly.
Yeah.
The astronaut.
She's
That's
a
Gabby
decided
Gifford's
underdog already.
Gabby Gifford's
Husband.
steadfast husband, and she may get her butt kicked by him, so she's grasping at straws. So suddenly it's like you're a liberal hack and the president dutifully tweets, "What a brave lady she is," and she's hoping that might
So
put her over the edge.
So here's a question. If you know that the jury's in the bag, you're a defense attorney, you know that your client is not going to get convicted no matter what. The Democrats lay out their case. How much time do you spend rebutting any of it, or do you? Or do you just sit there and go,
The defense rests.
defense rests?
I think
I mean,
I know for sure they won't say, "Oh, the defense rests," because that wouldn't satisfy Trump. I think what they'll do is they'll have more blathering, and they can't argue the facts. They can argue this kind of convoluted legal argument that Dershowitz is trying to make, but they can't talk about the facts because the facts are the facts. So I think they'll make more sputtering and.
What's the truism? If you don't have the facts on
argue
your
the
side,
law.
yeah.
If you don't have the law, argue the facts. Or, if you don't have both, then you plead guilty. Is what you do.
I think they'll
Pound the
do
table.
a vigorous
it'll be-
defense because I think they want to convince everyone that we don't need witnesses. Why do we have witnesses? We just gave you every reason in the world why not to bring witnesses and why to shut this thing down now.
Well,
But quite frankly, that argument is ridiculous. I mean, as any decent columnist, anybody with a law degree will say, you always have to have witnesses. You can't have a case without witnesses. When people who know something about it get brought to court. They sit there, they put their hand in the air, they get examined, and then they get cross-examined. And to pretend you have the facts on your side and then say at the same time, we're turning over nothing, no documents, and we're producing no one. But we have the facts on our side. I don't think, Alan, in all honesty, I don't think it has anything to do with 2%. It only has to do with fear of this guy. That's what they do with this lady from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn.
Oh, yeah,
She
yeah.
crapped all over Colonel Vindman.
Yeah.
And anybody that would talk like that from Russia, how can he be a patriot? Really? Maybe she should get some of that shrapnel he's carrying around in his leg and his Purple Heart.
And what part of the president saying he believed Putin over his own intelligence agencies is not crapping on
Right.
the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's amazing how conveniently they forget these things that go on. Hypocrisy in Washington. Imagine.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
shocked
but
that there's gambling in this
that
establishment.
is gross hypocrisy. Here you've got a guy that comes in there that's got a Purple Heart.
Yeah.
He's been wounded.
Well, that didn't look.
And it means
John Kerry had
absolutely
3 of them. Look what they did to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
Swift
that's right.
voting is a real
You
thing.
could
They're
imagine.
already going after Buttigieg too. So
Yeah.
You could imagine if Bill Clinton had been married to a woman from Eastern Europe.
Oh, my
that,
God. Oh, my
the
God.
accusation.
Well, she'd be a spy.
Yeah, she'd be a spy, and
She's
it was
a
like
plant.
I do remember
The
in
Manchurian wife.
2016 when Melania gave a speech at the convention, and she said, Donald Trump is very good man, and everybody, all these rednecks were like, oh my God, she's got an accent. But Donald Trump just pulls off.
where's the birth
everything.
certificate?
Yeah, really. He's a Teflon Don there. So it's really incredible the loyalty, the blind loyalty there.
Did you see Princess Ivanka today said that I gave up my life to come to Washington and work for all Americans to improve the lives of Americans.
Right. No, I saw.
Yes,
I
she
saw
did.
Don Jr. the day before the election. He was talking in Grand Circus Park at that barbecue place, and he was telling everyone, "My father doesn't have to do this. He's got a lot of money, but he loves America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so.
He loves Donald Trump."
All right. Well,
we
you
move
mentioned the word
on?
blathering a little bit earlier.
Blabber.
And so the president gave a press conference in Davos the other day when he was in Switzerland. And this has to do with the story we're going to talk about anyway, Tesla. But he was asked about Elon Musk. And I just want to read the quote because no show would be complete without me reading some sort of random quote or tweet from this guy that just shows just how much of a very stable genius with a J he really is. So the question was, Tesla's now worth more than GM and Ford. Do you have comments on Elon Musk? This is what's great. He says, well, you have to give him credit. I spoke to him very recently, and he's also doing the rockets. He likes rockets, and he does good at rockets, too, by the way. I never saw where the engines come down with no wings, no anything, and they're landing. I said I've never seen that before, and I was worried about him because he's one of our great geniuses, and we have to protect our genius.
Stable
you know,
geniuses.
We have to protect Thomas Edison, and we have to protect all these people that came up with originally the light bulb and the wheel and all these things. And he's one of
The
our very
real
smart
light
people,
bulb.
and we want to cherish those people. So I get what he's trying to say.
Protect Thomas Edison.
He loves the real
And
light
the wheel
bulb.
are the two
not-
things that you come to. The wheel, of course, has been around for 3,500 years or so.
I think
Well, Thomas Edison just celebrated, I think it was his 232nd birthday.
That's right. That's right.
He looks good.
He's living off that one breath that they still got in that in the thing over
The,
at the Henry
the problem
Ford.
is he's going to cut his Medicare, and then the poor guy he probably plots, which means drop dead. By the way.
But this gave me an opportunity to be reminded of a quote that happened about 1 year ago today, as a matter of fact, when he was trying to build a case for building a wall. So he was talking about the wall, and he said, well, they say you can't build a wall because a wall is medieval. Well, so is a wheel. A wheel is older than a wall. The wheel is older than the wall. You know that? There's some things that work. You know what? A wheel works and a wall works. Nothing like a wall.
Maybe they should use wheels to build
But
a
in
wall.
reality, walls have been around a lot longer than the wheel, apparently. But
can't
still, apparently, this guy is like still puzzled by the concept of the wheel, and just
science
amazed.
and
So
geniuses.
we need to protect the inventor
And
of the wheel.
he's infatuated with the regular light bulb, not the energy saving.
Yeah,
Well,
not,
that's
the, not,
right.
the, not the improved
Well, that's
light
why
bulb.
he's been talking to Tom, and he's hoping he lives another 50 years. He calls him on the phone. Oh, the phone works.
And he said, "You know what you need to work on, Tom? I need you to build me a new toilet." And I said, "Damn it, these things
flushing.
just take too many flushes." So that'd be good. And by the way, there's this thing called the dishwasher you should look into, because apparently the women tell me I got to run it 12 times to get the dishes clean.
Wow.
I don't know if you saw that. That was, yes.
That was, a
That was
couple
in Grand
weeks ago.
Rapids.
That's what, as she said, that's what the women tell me. The dishwashers don't work. I'm like, oh, this is a guy who's in touch with this
'Cause of
with the
energy.
feminist crowd.
And
water
as
saving.
the only woman
Yeah.
at this table, I have a relatively new dishwasher. I have a Bosch, and let me just tell you that if I could
Bosch.
sit down and kiss it every single night before I go to bed, I would, because it works perfectly.
Wow,
Although
there you have
I do
it.
believe that's going to be hit by tariffs pretty soon. I do believe that's
Well,
a German
it's
company.
safely in the house. No tariffs for me.
It's a democratic.
So yeah, right. I'm
Oh,
worried
that's
about
right.
I'm worried about the 100% tariffs on the French wine, though.
Well, yeah, that would be a real problem.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
that's what my husband buys is the European stuff. But did that happen? I thought we were like a day away.
You know,
I don't-
I'm not sure.
I've
I've
lost
been
in
paying
the-
attention to a lot of things, but some of these
The
things are flying
flotsam
over
of
my
the
head.
day- exactly. The flotsam of the news cycle is not that good.
Well, okay, let's talk about Tesla for just a second, because again, Tesla just passed Volkswagen to become the number 2 highest valued automaker on the planet, behind Toyota. Now, granted, it's a long time before they catch Toyota, but still, this is a company that has production issues. It has distribution
Yeah.
problems, although they just solved one of them here in Michigan. Customers can now buy direct here in Michigan. I think that just happened, 2 days ago?
Right.
That ruling came out. But this company does not have anywhere near the expertise and manufacturing capability of any of these other companies. But they've just passed Volkswagen, Ford, GM. I mean, obviously, some of this is that Silicon Valley buzz, and you know, since it's all tech, it's great. But is this something? It seems to me that there's something about to blow here.
Well, don't ask me to explain the modern stock market. It makes 0 sense to me anymore. I mean, when you have these, these outfits that are deep in, that aren't going to turn a profit in this century,
Right.
that are valued at billions of dollars, I can't handle it. So don't ask me. Maybe these smarter guys over here know.
I don't know. I mean, I was looking at that. I've always been puzzled by this. I just don't understand why. I mean,
also don't
get
trust-
I get the buzz around them, and they're cool looking vehicles for the most part, but still, it seems that the cart is before the horse a little bit with this company.
Well, that's kind of the way of the internet. I mean, it's like, remember WeWork. So I also
That's the
don't
way.
trust
I mean,
Elon
you have
Musk. I don't
so
care
many
what.
companies out there where investors are just pouring money in for years. And
Well, and
years
remember
with
the
no-
Hyperloop? He was going to make this loop that was going to go between downtown Chicago and
Oh, the
O'Hare
tunnel, the
Airport.
tunnel
The tunnel,
thing.
that was it. The tunnel loop. And he basically they basically they drilled a 1-lane road, and they put a car on it, or a Tesla on it.
Well,
Like,
and basically,
"Yay!"
it's like a Tesla.
Right.
It's where you can test drive a Tesla, basically.
the boring company they call it. That's a clever name, but there you go.
Well, let's stick with billionaires here. Jeff Bezos got his phone hacked.
Yeah.
Apparently by MBS.
Can I
Mohammed
have a
bin Salman.
word with the New York Times copy editor who plural or possessed
Bezos?
his name with Bezos S apostrophe
Yeah,
S?
that
That's
should
wrong.
not be that way.
All
I would
right,
agree.
anyway,
So
never
Jeff
mind.
Bezos, though, his phone got hacked. He exchanged numbers with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin
texting back
Salman,
and forth,
texting back and forth on
sending
WhatsApp.
selfies.
So MBS sends him this link to this video, which basically is a hack. They hack all his messages. He gets all those embarrassing messages about his divorce and with his girlfriend and all that stuff. Remember when all that became public about
The
probably
nude
about a year
selfies
ago or
and all
something.
that, yeah.
But the
Right.
United Nations did an investigation, found out that it was likely MBS himself
Who did this?
who hacked this.
Shocked.
Well, and of course,
Shocking.
Jamal Khashoggi worked for the
Right.
Washington
Washington
Post,
Post.
which Jeff Bezos now owns. Who's he doing this for? What's the purpose of hacking Jeff Bezos other than to embarrass him in the Post?
I mean, Jeff Bezos, the enemy of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
This should be looking.
I think there's. I'm totally speculating here, but I assume there's favors that are done on the international level where Saudi Arabia understands that Trump hates Bezos in the Washington Post, and he says, "Hey, I'll do you a little favor. Here you go. Here's, And I would not be surprised, considering that Trump said, "Don't worry about you killed that Washington Post columnist. I don't like the Washington Post very much. We're not gonna let this hurt business."
Bezos also kind of turned that particular straw into gold. Was this last year? It was almost a year ago, because I remember I was in New York City reading this on my phone, and he was it was about his he like made this very decent forthright, courageous statement about American media. Was it the New York National Enquirer that was running these pictures?
Yes.
Yeah, basically saying, "The hell with you! I'm gonna live my life. Do whatever you want with my nude pictures."
Yeah.
Which is not my reaction, but there you go.
Well, he's like, I still have $50 billion
Yeah.
even after divorcing. So, it's like,
Yeah.
hey, just breaking today here. This is the first
Okay.
I've seen of this, as a matter of fact. 11:08 a.m. today. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer will give the Democratic response to the State of the Union address this year. Which, I'm sorry, that never goes well for whoever gets to do that
No, it
address.
really doesn't, but that's still a big promotion for
It
her.
is. It's a big
Wow.
deal. The Democrats can put her forward as hey, this is the future kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And
But
she's what? She's like 47 or something like that.
something like
Yeah.
that, I believe.
Female.
She said
So
it's an
very
exciting
important.
opportunity to show Democrats, quote, getting things done. And I'm looking at this saying, okay, Michigan is a tougher sell. We don't have a road deal.
Yeah.
The budget was just a knockdown drag out that still is not fully resolved as they start budget negotiations again. What does she have to show as Democrats getting things done at this point in Michigan?
Well, she's responding to the State of the Union. So, it's just a counterpoint to
Yes,
it, right?
absolutely.
So, she can say one or two
But I'm
things.
saying, is there room for people to sit there and go, yeah, what has she done here? I'm
Yeah.
starting to see those comments come up from all sides. And it's not
Right.
anything, I don't suggest that she is personally responsible for this lack of progress because, divided government gets you these kind of results.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of interesting. It's not like, Detroit City on the move here. We've still got some
no,
challenges.
you're right. It's a good point. I don't know. It's a good
I think she'll do a good job, though. She gave the address when my daughter graduated from U of M in May, and I thought she was really. And she's a Michigan State person too.
Yeah.
And she had a little humor in it. I think she'll do a good job.
Yeah.
And
She's
I agree
sharp.
with Nancy.
She's very
I think
sharp.
it's a response. She's not going to get up there and say, "Here in Michigan, we did 8 Mile Road. We did this."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Nobody
to show
cares.
a reasoned,
Yeah.
sensible.
Just make sure you've got a
Female
bottle of
face.
water within arm's reach.
Yeah,
So you
I
have to
know.
use it to Marco Rubio and then Bobby Jindal. Remember,
Bobby
then
Jindal.
governor
Oh,
of
that was
Louisiana.
That's a classic.
Gave one of
know.
the worst speeches I've ever seen in response to this.
It finished his career. I think. I really think that finished him.
He didn't do very well after that.
No, he did not. Well,
Yeah.
Marco didn't either.
No.
So he
Well, now
struggled.
Marco Rubio is like a total toady. He's another Grover Dill.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him, but something.
It's something bad.
Well, I think I told you guys one time we were here. I heard George Will say he said that some people get elected to Congress to do something, and some people get elected to Congress because they want to be something. And unfortunately, we have more of them that want to be something and want to do something nowadays.
I always figure, that they're willing to sell their souls. It's like, you wonder how good crack is because people are willing to break in homes and they're willing to steal from their relatives. And I feel it's almost like crack to these people that they're willing to give up their dignity. They're willing to give up everything to retain their offices. It's, nobody stands up and just says, this is the right thing to do.
They
A few.
have to know. I read a columnist that I like, Neil Steinberg. He's like, they have to know. They're not stupid people. They know what's coming for them down the road. They know this is not going to end well for them, but they can't stop themselves.
I think the crack analogy is a good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
They know too. I know a lot of crackheads, and they know where it's going, but they keep on sucking that pipe.
All right, let's go local here for just a sec. Stay here in Michigan. Very bizarre situation involving a man named Santori Thomas, who was working for Enterprise Rent-A-Car, won a racial discrimination lawsuit, gets all the paperwork signed, collects his checks, his lawyers get their cut, everybody's happy going their separate ways. He goes to cash it at TCF Bank, and TCF calls the cops on him, saying he's trying to deposit a fraudulent check. His lawyer's arguing that, hey, this wouldn't happen to a white person, and TCF saying, well, we acted appropriately because we didn't know. You go ahead, Fish.
Let's let the
There's
lawyer
one
go.
more fact that's really the key in this case, and that fact is the man had an account there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like he just walked in from New York with phony ID or something like that.
Right.
His lawyer, luckily for him and luckily for the rest of us, is Deb Gordon. And Deb Gordon is
gonna win.
going to hang these people out to dry. And I'm going to tell you something else. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if she winds up including the cops, because I'm not a civil lawyer, but I know if the police are there and you can't leave, you're imprisoned, even though you're not locked up.
Right.
They had two
You're being
guys
detained.
outside of the bank. I guess what they thought he was going to do, break and run for it without his money. He's going to take off. But I'd like to see her include them, because their excuse, you read the same stuff I read. Yeah, well, we got a call, so therefore what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She got on the phone with him. This is Deborah Gordon we're talking about. We're
Exactly.
not talking about some podunk lawyer.
Right.
This is one of the the top lawyers in this area.
Right.
And, she sent them the complaint, a copy of the complaint. And these morons, both the bank and the police, they wanted a copy of the judgment. I guess they hadn't gotten caught up to the notion it's a sealed judgment. Most civil cases like
Right.
that,
Yeah.
because the suee, the defendant, the enterprise, they don't want it out there.
Right. How much they paid.
That's right. So it's sealed. And these morons are asking her, well, just send us a copy of the judgment, then we can see it. And she's trying to explain to them. It's like she's talking in Turkish.
Well, and is it one of those things that you could have just sit there and said, hey, we need to place a hold on this for a day or two because it's a large deposit, which happens in a lot of different banks. Do your research and then just go, hey.
That's what happened at Chase. He
Yeah.
went to
Yeah.
Chase. He opened an account at
Yeah.
Chase. That's even
It was available the next day.
Most people who come in a bank, unless you're, I've been in the same bank for 45 years, they know me, blah, 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 blah. But most people, if you bring a decent-sized check,
They're
it's
gonna
going
hold
to be
it.
held.
Yeah,
to
of
see
course.
whether it's good.
Right.
Right.
And that's all they have to tell the guy.
Right.
You won't be able to get your cash out for 18
Right.
hours or 2
Yeah.
days or whatever.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
they can usually verify these things within moments, but, obviously, but here's the interesting thing. The spokesperson originally said, a guy named Tom Wennerberg for TCF, said that the branch staff adhered to company policy and acted appropriately. Here's his quote. Mr. Thomas's transaction was handled like any other transaction involving large requests for cash. We regret there was any inconvenience to Mr. Thomas as a result. Inconvenience.
Yeah.
Now, but here's the separate statement that actually came from corporate communications, not just the spokesperson. They said, we apologize for the experience Mr. Thomas had at our banking center. Local police should not have been involved. We strongly condemn racism and discrimination of any kind. We take extra precautions involving large deposits and requests for cash. And in this case, we were unable to validate the checks presented by Mr. Thomas and regret we could not meet his needs. Now, that one, that's much more of a corporate speak statement, but clearly
Yeah.
you can see that the company recognized that we might have a problem here.
I think
Yeah.
someone in the company woke up from their coma and said, this is Deborah Gordon we're screwing around.
Well,
The lawsuit probably had already been filed, but even if it hadn't, they know what's coming.
in a town where we're trying to build a new reputation and
Right.
become sort of the hometown bank
almost-
that Comerica
Right.
used to be before they bolted.
It's almost-
They're replacing a racist Kobo name at
It's almost
Kobo
like it was
Center.
poisoned, like the Kobo Center was poisoned.
Right.
It seeped
Anybody who
into the
touches their
DNA.
business is going to be ruined.
Right. But this reminds me, though. I mean, I don't know if you're going to bring up this other case that I saw yesterday, which
Okay.
was the woman who was
Well, you're bringing it up, so we're
groped,
good.
who was groped on the Spirit Airlines.
Oh, yeah,
flights.
that was a bizarre one.
Yeah, and they told her, "Well, we'll move you," and she's like, "The hell with me
Move me?
moving? Move him. He's the one who groped me. He's the one who's like masturbating under his, And they're like, and they had, their reasons sounded kind of okay. I mean, they said moving her would have the effect of putting the aisle on one side of him and an open seat on the other side, which they saw as a better resolution than putting him
putting him in
putting
another
next to
place,
another
right.
woman.
Well, don't you lock that guy in the bathroom at that point? Go back in that section where the stewardesses are, where they can belt him in and just leave him there? Because a guy like that, this is all he's doing?
Right, but then but that's the, but
jeez.
it's like I just wonder,
are
who's
these people?
thinking? Who is thinking? Maybe they just have this rule book that they're supposed to follow, and they have no idea how to deviate from it and use common sense.
Speaking of inappropriate touching,
Yes.
and comments,
Yeah.
Pete Lucido, State Senator Peter
Again.
Lucido,
Back in the news.
back in the news again because now a sitting senator has
One of his
accused him of inappropriate comments. When she first got elected, she won a district that had been controlled by Republicans for a little while, and she's like, "Well, I beat this incumbent. He does one of these." Well, I can see why.
Right. Well, all
Creepy
while
dude.
having his
His hand on
her
it back
waist.
down here,
Yeah, Right.
And so he was.
Can I just recommend
Please go
Chad
ahead.
Selwesky?
Yeah, Chad Selwesky, that's what I was
Chad
gonna get to.
Selwesky has a column in today's Deadline Detroit talking about his long history. Chad Selweski knows Macomb politics. And,
Oh, yeah.
you know,
Right.
he goes
Chad
back
does a
into
great job.
the events that were not covered by, shall we say, the rest of the media.
Well, and I was it was one of those things when I was reading that this morning, because it's on DeadlineDetroit.com right now, by the way, Chad Selweski's look at Peter Lucido. I'd forgotten about some of the other things about this guy. So
The thing that gets me, and it doesn't matter if it's this guy or Matt Lauer or whatever, one would think that now, given all the publicity, all the things, that men would recognize, no matter what their actual thoughts are, no matter what their behavior
Right.
is, they wouldn't do stuff like this
You can't do that.
again and again and again and again. It's just hard to believe.
I mean, the thing is,
anyone
you know,
can be
it's-
that dumb. I mean,
Yeah.
It's interesting. People say, "Oh, that was 2008." That was a different
Oh,
time.
yeah.
It wasn't a different time.
It's always been a bad thing to
It's
do.
it's always been a bad thing. It's just the Me Too
Well,
movement
actually,
is heightened.
This
but
wasn't.
even-
This was 2018. This was.
Yeah.
yeah,
The
this
year
is
before
just
last.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And this is when all this stuff was going on.
Right.
Yeah.
right. You're seeing
When,
people
you know,
lose their careers.
We're
You're
watching
seeing
people drop like flies out there.
Some people don't want to change. It's like, we were talking the other day about Mike Royko, the Chicago Sun-Times columnist who went to the Tribune.
Right.
And in his latter years, he just refused to be politically correct.
Right.
And he started to look like really a curmudgeon and kind of a little bit of an ass.
Yeah,
And,
a big-
and he
a
was
big
great
bit of an
And he
ass,
was
yeah.
a great columnist, but he just was like, I'm not buying into that political correctness. And I think there's some guys like that who, probably Pete Lucido, who say, "Oh, that's all BS."
It's my brand to be a
Men
jerk.
are men.
But putting your hands on people is not any question of political correctness. It's
Yeah.
No.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
I can understand that you don't want to say certain words, or you're going to say certain words, but mauling
Yeah, I know.
women that never was okay. I mean, people did it.
If you really want to express extra affection in the course of a handshake, do the Bill Clinton, the two-handed handshake, because then
let's not hold him up as one we should talk about how to
I know,
handle,
but that
how to
was-
deal with women
Because he is
after.
the standard for
Very
appropriate
true.
behavior with women.
very true.
They
but
did
that
show
was
him the other
his-
day at I think it was a
that was a
Lakers
big
game,
charmer
shaking
that he
hands
did,
with
though.
LeBron James.
Oh, well.
But the
That was kind of a
two-handed, the
nice
Bill Clinton
change.
double clasp handshake was very effective on the trail, and it's not offensive yet. Maybe it will be someday.
All right. Well, we got to wrap up because we're running out of time. But this is one of my least favorite weekends out there on the calendar because this is that week between the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
The NHL, I believe, is having their
Their
All-Star
All-Star game will be
weekend.
this week.
That'll be exciting.
Doesn't
But
ESPN
there's only
Classic-
one-
So you get
I
to
feel
double
like
down on
there's
college
only-
basketball. There's going to be some good college hoops.
There's only one true All-Star game, and I think it's baseball, where people actually play to their fullest. They play defensively, offensively, to their fullest. All the other sports,
Hey,
is
not
just
since Pete Rose
nonsense.
ran over the catcher in the All-Star game back
Ray
when
Foster.
1975 or
Yeah.
something like that.
But the NBA, the NFL,
well, the NBA one is great though. The
NHL.
score's like
The best.
180 to
The best.
178.
They launched something like 123.
Right.
I mean, think about it. You're playing an 82-game schedule. Do you really expect these guys to go out and and D everybody up? Well, you're
Right.
trying to not get hurt. That's all you're trying to do.
Right.
Well, it was funny yesterday though. I was over in the Guardian building lobby for a couple of minutes, and I saw 3 different people I knew because I used to work over there, and all of them were working on separate Super Bowl office pools. So I'm just like, I see the important work is getting
Gambling?
done
There was
today.
gambling going on?
There may have
Oh, my
been.
God.
I
Where's-
won't mention
where's
who they
Claude
were.
Rains when we
I
need
won't
him?
mention who they were, but I saw all kinds of squares
my
forms
God.
on laptops and on paper, and everybody's filling out their squares already and all that kind of stuff. So we got 49ers versus the Chiefs. Nancy,
Why are you
where
looking
are you putting
at
your
me?
money?
Why are you looking at me with this question?
Because I know you don't care.
I really don't
I like these Chiefs. I think they've got it.
I think you got to go for the Midwest.
Eeny, meeny,
Yeah.
miny, mo for me.
I'm not a big, huge football guy, but I have watched a couple of these games, the playoff ones. I like San Francisco because they can run the ball.
San Francisco
You run
is
the ball,
great.
you can hold the ball. Lloyd Carr used to tell me that all the time when he was at U of M. And you get in the third and fourth quarter and you're ahead. The Chiefs are going to score if you give them the ball, but you can have 8-minute drives, 9-minute drives. They ran for almost 300 yards last week
Yep.
against a good team.
Well,
So
we'll see.
if they can run, then they can. Otherwise, you're not going to beat the Chiefs because they get down the field too fast.
In the meantime, your Wolverines,
You know?
3-game losing streak in the Big Ten. Not a good time to have that, but they're going to make the tournament, obviously, in some
I'm not-
capacity.
if Isaiah Livers doesn't, let me tell
Yeah,
you
that's
something. Let me tell you something. I just told you guys that yesterday, in fact. When you take your best shooter, your best defender, and your best rebounder off the floor, and you don't have a deep bench, it's not easy. That league is a great league. You got all good coaches. I was at the Penn State game. They got a lot of good players. They're well coached. It's tough to win when you shoot 5 for 28, for
Yes.
threes. And if Livers is there, he's a 50%. And he guards the best guy. He can guard a big guy. He can guard a smaller guy. It really was just unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the kid. It's unfortunate for the squad. But you can see that they're still playing hard, and Juwan is doing a great job still, as far as I'm concerned. 11-5 or 14-2. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing.
So the alumni are apparently happy with Juwan Howard thus far.
I
at the
didn't say the
University of
alumni.
Michigan.
The ex-players are happy.
Okay.
Alumni are
Yeah.
never happy
Well,
unless
that's
you win.
true.
What do you-
Every game, they would pay people to come and play. They don't care if a guy can read and write. Alumni, all they want to do is win.
And what do you think of Juwan Howard?
I think he's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah,
You can
good.
tell the kids really want to play for him.
Uh-huh.
And
Good.
he called timeout in both halves after about 3 minutes because he didn't like what they were doing. He sat him down. He doesn't go nuts. He's not like Izzo or most of the coaches in the Big Ten, but he's well respected and he relates with the kids. And when these guys come next year, these big shot recruits they got, you watch and see what they'll do then.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
it
then-
widely,
He seems like a
is
good
it
guy.
widely known in your viewing and listenership of the show that Steve actually played for the Wolverines when he was in college?
It's a long time ago.
I-
We're having a
They
50
still
year-
wore Converse All-Stars back then.
We did. One pair for games, one pair.
And we don't even want to
Has-
know about
And
the
if-
shorts.
If the shorts are up
Has
to
there
the
been
equipment.
another Jew since?
Yeah, Danny Wall. Yeah.
And you can name them. All right, we got to wrap up, everybody. Steve Fishman, thank you so much for coming back. We appreciate it very
Pleasure.
much. We'll
Always
have you
great.
back. Alan Lengel, we appreciate it. Nancy
thank
Derringer,
you.
as always.
Thank you.
Always fun.
Thanks to Michael Lucido for
Michael
engineering this
Lucido.
broadcast.
No
once
relation
again.
to the states.
Also
Not
big-
right. Not
Yeah.
son of. Not
Actually,
Pete's,
there is.
Pete's
It's a
son.
distant relation.
very distant relation, yeah.
But also thanks to Techtown Detroit and Samaritas for sponsoring this broadcast. I appreciate that very much. Your help is duly noted and appreciated. And thanks all of you for checking it out. Pass it along to your friends. Share it. Shoot me those emails, thecraigfolleyshow@gmail.com. Let us know what you like or don't like about this. And if you want to say throw the bum out, meaning
Julie,
me, let me know that
this
too.
scarf
That's
for
fine.
you.
There you go. So Nancy, what's the scarf today? Let's
Today
see.
it's my fancy new one I got.
I was gonna say, if you turn it to the
Christmas.
side, you look kind of like Fred from Scooby Doo. You know, that wears that one like that.
Anyway,
Ruh-roh.
all right,
Oh, I'm
let's
just kidding.
let's get Alan's
Thanks,
walk
everybody.
off
Alan.
All right. Drive home safely.
Have a great weekend. Hey, the Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit is made possible by Samaritas, which is the state's largest private foster care and adoption agency. But they do a heck of a lot more than that. They've been serving homeless families, persons with disabilities, abused and trafficked women. They're also one of the largest resettlement agencies in the state. They provide market rate and affordable housing for seniors and HUD housing for families. And they also have skilled nursing, memory care, and rehab communities in Grand Rapids, Cadillac, and Saginaw. Samaritas, thanks for their support. Great organization doing great stuff all around the state.